Duke being a really, really good defensive team. K-State has not played a defensive team of this caliber just yet this season. Honestly, it's a blessing and a curse to be able to go ahead and get this tough loss out of the way. Now that hopefully a lot of other teams that bring high defensive pressure, let's use, West Virginia, for example, or Colorado, for example, really good defensive teams. Iowa State, being able to see this Duke team early enough is essentially going to be good in the long run. It just sucks that we weren't able to get the dub out of it.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank. If you're thinking about starting a business or know someone who is, check out Emprise Bank's SBA loans. It's always good to know your options, and they can be your partner in possible.
Was good, was smooth. Welcome back to another episode of Run It Back on KCSN. How y'all doing? How y'all feeling? I am your host, Jazsmin Halliburton, coming back with another episode, bringing you all things K-State women's basketball and K-State women's volleyball and all K-State women's sports and baseball when the time comes. But of course, we ain't there just yet. We still in the basketball phase, just kicking off the season. And of course, we're in the back half of the volleyball season. We'll get started on that in just a moment here. But I got to start off with our women's basketball team, ranked number 9 in the country. They're currently in Las Vegas, baby, at the Ball Dogs tournament. They had their first top 25 matchup, really top 15 matchup against number 13 Duke. And I just got to jump right into it, man. That's the first L of the season for K-State. First top 15 matchup, top 25 matchup, the whole kit caboodle. K-State ended up losing 62-73. And it's a frustrating loss for them. I know probably a frustrating loss for the fans, considering, high expectations. I'm not ready to give up the season by any means. Like I always say, don't get it confused. Don't get it twisted. I'm not saying that one bit at all. It's just their first true test of the season, right? And so as we're going to jump into this, I will start by saying I was not able to actually physically watch the game because this game was on Flow Hoops. I'm going to get to my little rant on that in a moment, but I was able to listen to it on the K-State radio broadcast. So wasn't able to dissect the way I truly wanted to if I was able to see it visually. But, the guys on the radio, they did a really good job of being able to, tell us what's going on. Because I'm sure a lot of us actually had to listen to this on the radio because not a lot of people have Flow Hoops and not a lot of people are going to be willing to pay for Flow Hoops. Say what you will about that. I am one of those people. I'm sorry. I'm not really sorry. You know what I mean? But once again, we're going to get back into this ball rolling, okay? So K-State started off real great, real cool, like looking like a top 10 team in the league at the start of this game in the first quarter, going on an 11-0 run. They were feeding Yoki in the post. Duke didn't really have much of an answer for her at that time, and they were able to keep doing what was working, right? Duke called his timeout, and then from literally that point on, it was like a flurry of Duke runs. Duke defensive pressure. Coach Benny talked about how this is a really good defensive team. Duke is a really, really good defensive team. Active hands, a good perimeter team. It was honestly, they were just giving K-State fit essentially the entire game. Now this ended up being an 11 point loss. They started to pull away essentially late third quarter for the most part, but it was never a true sense of K-State this is when K-State can really start pulling back into this, because it was just a flurry of Duke runs. K-State didn't really have too much of any runs. There was a time where they were scoreless for I want to say almost 6 minutes. They were missing free throws. It was just really poor offense, to say the least. And like I mentioned before, Duke's perimeter pressure, really good at it. K-State ended up shooting 20% from 3 in this game, shooting 2 for 10. Now, K-State's been averaging 9 made threes a game. Okay, so them only taking 10 shots, that's a problem. And now that's going to lead me into my next thing, okay? K-State shot 46% overall from the field, but K-State only took 54 shots. They averaged 66 shots a game. You see what they've been able to do, essentially average over 80 points a game so far, is because they're taking a lot of shots. Obviously Yoki's going to do her thing in the post and get that percentage up, of course, but everybody's, they're doing their job. They're doing their thing. They're getting open. They're knocking down threes. Can't knock down threes if you're not attempting them. Can't knock down your shots or get to the basket if you're not necessarily driving to the basket. And so from what I was at least hearing from, the broadcasters on the radio, once again, shout out to them. I mean, early on, feeding Yoki was working. There was that went into that 11-0 run. Duke at the time didn't have really much of an answer for him, but then they upped the ante, they upped the pressure, and Duke was able to play Yoki really, really well. She still ended up, leading the team with 16 points, 4 rebounds, right? But they were just after that early success with Yoki to start the first quarter, it seemed like the offense was just kind of like force feeding her the ball, and that's what led to turnovers. K-State had 18 turnovers in this game, and that turned into 15 Duke points. It was relentless defense, but I mean, I'm not gonna say like they all a lot of these weren't live ball turnovers. It was just like I mentioned before, and even Coach Mitty mentioned it after the game that it was just poor offense. There was a few travels. There was players stepping out of bounds. I know there was one that would have been a turning point. I want to say late in the second quarter where Duke was going ahead, and Tamara Poindexter, she had a really slow game. I think she only scored 4 points in this game, very much below her average. She was 0 for 4 from the 3-point line. She made her first 3 of the game in the second quarter, but refs waved that off because she stepped out of bounds. She ended up stepping out of bounds twice in this game, I think. I know the broadcast were talking about the dimensions of this court was a little bit different because it's a G League court, essentially. A lot of G League games are played on that court, so the dimensions are a little bit different. So the 3-point line's a little bit closer to the boundary line, to the sideline. And I guess that's just something that the players needed to really get used to. But I mean, it's just, I don't know how much practice time K-State had on this court, or if it was, made aware to them how different the dimensions are. But I mean, that wasn't necessarily a problem for Duke. So it was just one of those things that offensively the Cats weren't just clicking on, and having these, careless turnovers with the travels, with the stepping out of bounds. Obviously, Duke being a really, really good defensive team. K-State has not played a defensive team of this caliber just yet this season. Honestly, it's a blessing and a curse to be able to go ahead and get this tough loss out of the way. Now that hopefully a lot of other teams that bring high defensive pressure, let's use, West Virginia, for example, or Colorado, for example, really good defensive teams. Iowa State, being able to see this Duke team early enough is essentially going to be good in the long run. It just sucks that we weren't able to get the dub out of it. But I mean, it's a non-conference game. It's not going to hurt us in conference. It's still a top 25 loss. So I don't think that's going to do very much damage to us as far as the ranking goes and strength of schedule, this, that, and the third. But I know it's just offensively, it's frustrating. I know they're going to take a lot of things from that. It's just, damn it, Duke was good. Duke was good. Chelsea Gray was there, two back-to-back or a 2-time WNBA champion with the Las Vegas Aces. So maybe she gave a little extra energy to the Blue Devils there. But I mean, just what it sounded like, overall energy just wasn't with K-State at that time. You know what I mean? Like I said, they have not played a team like Duke so far this season. It was tough. And I'm talking about the shots per game. They took 12 shots 12 shots less than they normally do. And the free throw percentage, it was abysmal. 62% shot 10 of 16 from the charity stripe. Now, I'm not saying that they would have won this game or if things would have ended up any differently, if they ended up taking their usual average of shots or, even made a few more of their free throws. But damn it, it would have made things a little bit more interesting towards the end of it. And I know this is, once again, I'm not worried about this team. I'm not worried at all. I'm just telling y'all what it sounded like because I wasn't able to watch this game because, hell, nobody has flow hoops, okay? But that's just the frustrating part. Like, this team, it seems like they kind of went to their old ways a little bit, but just get it to Yoki and let her do something with it. Once again, she still had 16 points. I think she was, 12 or 16 from the field. Let me double check that before I lie to y'all. She was 7 for 12 from the field. Okay, like I said, 4 rebounds, 16 points, okay? But just sounded like a lot of force being. It just wasn't working out. That sounded like old K-State offense from 2 seasons ago to where they only solely relied on Yoki. And that's something that, or 3 seasons ago, where you can't do that. That's why you have experienced players. That's why you have shooters. That's they know who they are. They know who their identity is, and it's just not going to completely flow through Yoki. You have other people. You have other people that's going to drive to the basket, get the ball in the hoop. But no one was necessarily doing that on Monday against a really, really good Duke team. So that's just something they just going to have to really get going in. But once again, that energy from what it sounded like over the radio, I mean, we were out rebounded only by 2, 34-36 with the advantage going to Duke. But the thing is, like, Duke had 16 offensive boards to K-State's 10. And that was always a thing. That's one of those things that just kept going with their runs and their runs and their runs. They were just able to just get these offensive boards, bring them down, and it just kind of suck more of the energy out of them. Like I said, this is not a blowout. I'm not trying to make this sound like it was a blowout, but when you just couldn't stay with the runs that they had, or when you're scoreless for 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 3 minutes here and there spread out throughout the game, like that's a little bit demoralizing. You don't have a lot of chances to put the basket into the hole at this point in time because you're getting out hustled on these offensive rebounds. They're grabbing you with both hands every time K-State touches it. I mean, it'll either go out of bounds and it goes right back to Duke underneath the basket. It's just frustrating things of, the way the ball is bouncing. And that just sucks. That's just some things how things go. And then Ashlyn Jackson from Duke, she went off 30 points, 6 from 9 from 3. It seems like every time that K-State could have gotten close, brought it within 5, brought it within 6, getting close to it, right? She ended up knocking down a 3. Because 6 to 9 from 3, this is a career high for her with 30 points. But of course, that just seems like always happens when K-State plays, not, and I will never say like a lower level of competition. I will not say that at all, especially when it's Duke, right? But it's just, of course, somebody's going to go off for 30 points, a career high. And that's just not something that was necessarily in their game. But, say la vie, all credit to Ashlyn Jackson. She's hooping. Okay. The next leading scorer for K-State was Serena Sundell, 15 points, 4 assists, 4 rebounds, 2 steals. Kennedy Taylor, obviously coming in for Yoki. She had a little bit of foul trouble early on, but she cleaned some stuff up. 10 points, 8 rebounds, 2 steals. Then Jalen Glenn, 9 points, 5 assists, 4 rebounds. It was a struggle. It was a struggle for other people that you really need to step up. We talked about how deep this bench is. It's deep. The deepest this probably has been. I know Taryn Side, she's part of that deep bench. 20 minutes, unfortunately, 0 points for her. 4 turnovers. She fell victim to a couple of those travels. Once again, few of those actually was because of Duke's perimeter defense, which is making her uncomfortable. And that's how that happened. K-State players just picking up the ball where they shouldn't pick up the ball. I told you about Tamira Poindexter. She only had 4 points in this game, 0 for 3 from the 3-point line. The one that she made that turned into a 6-point sling because they waved off the basket, and then Duke on the other end made a 3-pointer. That was called off because she stepped out of bounds. And you had Zayna Walker. Unfortunately, a really poor game for her. She only ended up with 1 point. That was coming from the free throw line. She was 0 for 4 from the field. You'd like to see her take a little bit more shots, especially considering, starter, how much she has the ball in her hands, things of that in the third. But I know they're going to get it right, and I have nothing to worry about. Like I said, this is the toughest competition that they have seen all season long so far, and it's not going to do too much damage to them in their ranking, in their KenPom, all that. So I'm not worried about it. They're going to have another chance against DePaul on Wednesday. See how they're able to shake things with that. And who knows, maybe this is the matchup we can see again, if not in this tournament, later down the road. Like I said, I'm not going to have any worries to it whatsoever, okay? But now that I've been able to talk about this game a little bit, I want to do like just a slight rant. I'm not going to take too long. At all. Why are these games on Flow Hoops? Why is this something? You have a top 15 matchup. They wouldn't do this to the men. And considering that the women's game has grown so much, I mean, I know there's probably some deals with the contract, yada, yada, yada stuff that I don't understand, but something else has to get done to be able to have these tournaments on, national television, or at least get it to ESPN Plus. Do something, because you can't keep having these top 25 matchups on Flow Hoops. You even think about last year, even had Caitlin Clark on Flow Hoops. That's how you know something ain't right. Even when K-State played Iowa in another tournament last year, can't necessarily remember exactly what it was, but this was third time K-State has played them in 2 years. They had just previously beat them in prime time on Fox. I want to say like a week beforehand. This would have been a perimeter thing to put on national television for this tournament, and they did it. I get they probably can't change it quickly because it's probably a contract thing. They probably have so ever many years with Flow Hoops to do it. But if there's ever a time where they need to renew that contract, they better throw that in the trash. Because how you going to grow the game when people cannot watch a top 15 matchup? and like in all over the conference, every single conference in women's hoops right now. It's unacceptable. Something else has got to get. This is something that you got hopefully one more season to do this. Like I said, don't know how long this contract's gonna go, but discussions have to be made. Either buy out of it or something. You cannot grow the women's game like we all know that it is growing with every single year. They just can't keep doing this. That's my little spiel. You can agree with me. You can disagree with me. Argue with your mama. Do what you want with this information. But Flow Hoops, as far as this right here, it's gotta go. It's gotta go. But with that, I'm going to move into our little sponsorship. We have Home Field Apparel. Please go ahead and hit them up at homefieldapparel.com. It has a wide arrangement of different universities. Got jackets, got hats, got hoodies. It's not even universities. They got a NASCAR thing going on. They got vintage going on. There's a lot of options that you can look at, but you ain't gonna know unless you go to homefieldapparel.com. Now we'll be right back on Run It Back.
Looking for tickets for your next event? Tickets for Less is your #1 source. Save big on every purchase when you use promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com.
All right, y'all. Welcome back. Welcome back. Y'all heard me talk about K-State women's hoop. Y'all told me do my little rant, my little spiel on Flow Hoops and how that's going to hurt the growth of the women's game, trying to put that stuff on national TV or ESPN Plus at the very least. But now, we're going to move on to K-State volleyball. They just had the Sunflower Showdown against 11th ranked KU. KU is literally doing the damn thing this season. Top of the Big 12. They going to make some serious noise in the NCAA tournament. Fortunately, K-State was able to pull out of this game with a win. The first matchup against KU in Lawrence was a really, really good match. That went 5 sets. This one, unfortunately, didn't work out the same. KU ended up winning 3 sets to 1, 17-25. K-State won the second set, 25-23, and then 18-25. And K-State was trying to push it to a 5th set going into extras, but KU ended up winning that 28-26. Outkilled the Cats 64-59. K-State had a lot of errors in comparison, 30 errors to the Jayhawks 18. K-State shooting at a very low clip for hitting percentage at 147 compared to 269 for KU. Assist numbers, KU was up 61-54 for the Cats. K-State had the edge at aces. They had 5 aces in this match compared to Kansas's 2. And then they weren't really outblocked very much. K-State had 11 blocks. KU had 12. It was just one of those games to where if the ball fell a certain way here, ball fell a certain way there, this game would have gone to 5 sets. Now, I can't necessarily say that K-State would have won in 5 sets, but this is sport. You never know exactly what's going to happen, all right? Aaliyah Carter, want to extend a congratulations to her, getting her 2,000th career point, making it her second in K-State history. She ended the match with 24 kills, 4 blocks, an ace, and 13 digs. So another double-double for her. Light work. Anaya Clinton with 16 kills. I want to say this is her 3rd straight match with double-digit kills. Important for her because she's been battling some injuries this season too. Had Meg Brown, 5 blocks, 5 kills for her. And of course, Izzy doing Izzy things, 44 assists, 14 digs, 4 kills, 2 aces, and 2 blocks for the dog herself, okay? But overall, really, in comparison to last season, I know sometimes it's called the sophomore slump for Coach Mansfield. After having a really successful season last year, everybody thinks that they should have made it to the NCAA tournament. Unfortunately, this year, it's not going to go that way, and there's not going to be very much argument for it. Right now, with 2 games left on the season, they are at 10-15 overall, 8-8 in the Big 12. They have two more games in the season, so even if they win both of those games, unfortunately, this is going to be a season that ends in a losing record. That sucks to think about. They're fairly middle of the pack in the Big 12, so they still did fairly okay in the Big 12. But, overall on the season, we talked about it several times before. Coach Mansfield wanted to make sure that they take the decision out of the committee's hands when it comes to selection day for the NCAA tournament by scheduling top 25 tough matchups at the start of the season for teams that has pretty much stayed in the top 25 for the entire season. And those games didn't fall in our direction. Those ended up being losses, and that's just a tough way to start the season. but you never know when it goes into in conference play. Obviously, a lot of ranked teams in conference play for the Big 12, but still, it was a rough one. It was a rough one. K-State didn't get I think their first ranked win of the season. That was against, I want to say, TCU. It might have been TCU. A couple, last week. So it's been a really frustrating couple of matches for them. They lost in 5 sets to UCF. The Cats swept them early on in the season, and of course you have this game against KU. Once again, topped ranked KU, a damn good KU team. It was going to be a tall ask, which it is for a lot of these Big 12 teams, especially the ones that are ranked. You get no nights off in this conference. We've talked about this before, but as you do hate to see it. Aaliyah Carter is the best to ever do it, essentially in a K-State uniform for K-State volleyball. Sucks that she's not going to be able to go to the NCAA tournament. I want to say she's only been to one in her 5 years here. She came back to the Cats this season. From when I talked to her at the end of last season, it sounded like that she was going to enter her name in the transfer portal and not come back. I'm glad she thought better of it and came back to at least give this team a chance to go. It just didn't work. It just didn't work out that way after 25 games so far this season. But I think her number is going to be retired. Her jersey is going to be in the rafters. One of the first jerseys retired, at least in the morgue, right? So it sucks. I'm not worried. Once again, this is only Coach Jason Mansfield's second season with the Cats. He has the pedigree. He's coached the players. A lot of players and a lot of really high level volleyball programs now. We still got to recruit, still got to dig to the transfer portal. This was a season of injuries, so I'm not discrediting that. I know just after the expectations of last year, following up on this year, it's always tough. It's always tough. Sometimes you put these expectations on yourself. Sometimes the media will put expectations on you. I'm raising my hand because that's just some things how we got to go. But I'm not going to be upset with them. I'm not going to be disappointed in them. I know it sucks, but especially for Leah Carter not be able to have that opportunity to go back to the NCAA tournament in her last season. But it's still a bright spot. It's still going to be years to come. The K-State volleyball really up in the ante, trying to get on the same level of a lot of these other K-State programs that are really doing well and are really growing. And so they're doing that with them. They're doing that with them. So I have no worries for them as they finish out this season and go into next season. That's something we're going to keep an eye on. There's a lot of good players that I hope will come back. I know Coach Mansfield going to, dip his toe into the transfer portal, see who we can pull out. And the opportunity is going to be there. The opportunity is going to be there. Yes, it sucks that you're going to end the season with a losing record, that you're going to miss the NCAA tournament. But there's still a lot of good things to come out of this season. Getting a lot of good play from a lot of young players. Once again, injuries were a thing. Now you just got to see who else you can rely on when the seniors aren't there no more, when Izzy's not there no more, when Aaliyah Carter isn't there anymore. It's just, we're going to learn a lot more about this team come next year when, you don't have Aaliyah to rely on. And that's something that I'm excited to see. I think that's something a lot of us will be excited to see, just to see exactly what the heck going on, what they got going for us, right? But with that, I'm going to go ahead and end the show. I thank you guys for tuning in for another episode of Run It Back, and I will see y'all next week.